you want me to look at a camera or look at you? We have to think about journalism or reporting as hyperlocal. What is taking place within your own community. It's a way to challenge the norm and the stereotype. I think it's really interesting, Media City, because if you have cities, you have to have communities. So the question for me is, where are the media communities surrounding Media City? And those media communities don't just have to be in Salford, actually, they could be across the northwest. So what I would hope is going to start to happen, which I'm not overconvinced will, but what I'm hoping will start to happen is these locally based media communities will start to arise. So Media City is the deluxe version, but actually the media community is the low level, what I would term social media networking structures below it, almost like mini social media centres, mini production media centres, which is nurturing and developing talent and the stories. So what we have is a truly almost egalitarian sense of media that's happening. And I'm hoping that what Media City will do is inspire media communities to actually start producing content. But that, I think, is a real challenge for Media City. The danger is it will become a gated community, and that would, to me, would be a real failure. People's Voice Media is all about voice. It's about challenging perceptions and giving people the opportunity to explain their reality from their perspective. But it's also about connecting people, getting people to talk to each other and presenting success stories and presenting the good news stories in order to raise individual and community aspiration. We tend to talk about ourselves as community reporters. Community reporters is much more about voice, and actually isn't about the immediate. It's about generating stories, voice, information, news about your locality, and that's the difference. So for instance, it might be a blog, it might be video, it might be audio, it might be written, it might be photography, or actually it might be a newspaper. So I'm interested in the lowest form of technology possible that people can produce. It might be a webcam. People can still write, and people are still interested in newspapers. So for me, it's whichever way that you feel that you want to tell your story. And that is very different from mainstream media. So we don't necessarily do posh cameras. In fact, I would move away from posh cameras. We'll do podcasts, and that's all eminently achievable, which means anybody with a phone or with a small amount of income can actually produce content. I think it's a different style of news. News feels to me nowadays like it's very much around murder, mayhem and celebrity and corruption. Actually, had enough of that. What I want to see is real stories about real people and successes. Let's shout about success. Let's say good news stories, you know, instead of having the good news story at the end of News of 10. Actually, there are loads of good news stories. People who are really triumphing over some major obstacles. There are positive things happen, and now we have the tools and the abilities to actually support people to produce those stories and produce that voice and to present a different way of thinking. Let's raise the good news, not always the bad. We've trained over about 1,000 people in community reporting. They've all gone through programmes. That's now expanding across the UK. We're even doing stuff in Europe with partners. We're starting to develop a licensing approach which allows other people to pick up community reporting and to run it as their own activities. We've developed a website called communityreporter.co.uk where we're starting to aggregate that content together, and we're heading towards the goal of developing what we term the Reuters of the community, locally based people producing their stories and their voice from individual communities. And our ultimate goal is to create what we term a movement of community reporters, 10,000 community reporters across the UK, and to be bigger than Murdoch. To actually have real news, real people, real stories, instead of the gloss of a Murdoch News of the World type structure.